Welcome to Andy's Garage. I'm Andy Phillips. Today we're going to be fixing the bumper on this car here. So pretty much we're going to have to be pulling this out and then doing any kind of body work that may need to be done to fix that. So let's go ahead and get started. Getting a close-up here so you can see what we're dealing with. And what happened is the driver, I believe, backed into a tree or a bollard or something, and you can see hit pretty hard. You've got this plastic kind of decorative piece that goes around the actual metal bumper, which is actually ripping through here. That's how bad it was hit. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to pull this part out, and I'll get a view here from the top so you can see how bad it's popped in. But we're going to try to pull this out so we can get it where it needs to be, and then we're going to work on doing any kind of body work. Probably use maybe like a JB Weld plastic bonder to go ahead and seal along this break in the plastic. And what that'll do, that'll actually seal it as well as body fill it so we can sand it down. We do look like there's some cracking here that might need to be fixed. Another thing you can see here is how that is not flush, so we need to get that in place as well. Get that there taken care of and get all that put back in. So basically what we're going to do is pull this all out to the way it should be, and then maybe spray with a little bit of some matching paint. This is a Toyota right here, so we'll get a match for that. Now it's not going to be perfect because I'm not going to be taking the whole bumper off and redoing the entire bumper, so really what we're doing is just some body work to this and just spraying that area. So it should turn out halfway decent. Let's go ahead and I'll show you the items that'll need in order to get this done. Now to complete this, what you're going to need is a heat gun, because we're going to have to soften the plastic on that bumper cover in order to be able to either pop it out or to reshape it. You are going to need some kind of a suction so you can try to pull it out. In some cases you're able to pull it out if it's not too bad, but if the dent is too hard and too sharp, then you're probably going to have to remove the bumper and then use the heat gun to soften it and push it out. And then you will need some kind of touch-up paint, because depending on how bad the damage is, you may need to touch it up, and then some sandpaper to kind of sand that area before painting. So these are the items that you'll need. In some cases you might need some different tools and things like that, but that would be specific to your vehicle. So what I'm going to do first, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to take the heat gun and just kind of soften this up a little bit, because this plastic or whatever this material is, some vehicles it's fiberglass, but this one here is just like a plastic. What I'm going to do is just heat it up a little bit so it's a little more flexible, and then we'll put the suction on it, try to pull it out. Hopefully that does the trick. Worst case scenario, it doesn't. I may have to remove the bumper itself, take a rubber mallet and slowly pop that out, and then we can go ahead and start fixing the damage so we can then spray it. But let's go ahead and heat it up, and then we'll try to pull it that way. And you don't want to keep the heat in one area too long, because otherwise you're going to cause the paint to bubble up, and this is plastic, so you don't want that to start to melt and then you really have a problem. So you want to just kind of move along as I'm doing here, just enough to soften it so we can try to pull it. You definitely don't want to be hitting the heat gun up here around the plastic on the tail light, because that can definitely cause that to bubble up and crack. So you just want to be aware of that as you're doing this. It's already getting soft. Not soft, but you can see when I push on it, it's a little more flexible than it was. And in some cases, if it's a minor dent, just heating it up will cause it just to pop out. But I think because the impact, this one's going to need a little more force, and that's when we'll use the suction. I think we're ready to go ahead and connect the suction to it. Try to pull it. Should be getting soft enough. Really want to make sure I get it soft in here, because I want the body to maintain its form if possible right there. It's definitely soft, and I'm going to go ahead and wipe the area, clean this section right here. You can see that. It's definitely hot. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to put the suction on here. Put it right here. Get a good bond with it. See if I can give it a nice pull and see if we can't pull it out. Pull that. And here it comes. Whoop, almost. Got a little bit. Let's get another grip on it right here. No. We did move it some. Yep. All right. I'm going to heat it up a little bit more and we'll try again. Let's see if we can't get it again. Try to pull that. And we moved it a little bit more here. Let me try up here. Hold on, let's pull it. Okay, moved a little bit there. Let's see if we can't get it here and pull underneath while we're pulling that. All right, looks like I'm probably gonna have to take that off and bang it out. But let me try one more up here, see if I can't. Put it here. Now, so some of it came out. Can't get it to. It's sticking right here. If I can kind of get underneath here and push. Well, it looks like I'm going to have to take the bumper off. I was able to pull some of it out, but this indentation right here where it hit is bent too far. There's not enough force to pull it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and take the bumper off. We're going to get a rubber mallet, try to bang it out and push it out without messing up the actual shape of it. So we'll be back. I'll take the bumper off and then we'll be back to continue. Bumper's off. So if we turn it over, we can see here on the inside, this is pretty bad right here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the heat gun, try to soften it and push it by hand. I was going to use a rubber mallet, but because of the plastic not being what I thought it was, I don't think it's going to do much. It really needs to be pushed out. So let's go ahead and get this thing heated up and try to push it out this way. And you really just want to focus right here where it's pushed through, soften that. You don't want to be messing out here because then you can damage the actual form. And then right there where it pushed through, we need to try to get that leveled out as well. We're going to heat this up and then we'll be back once it's softened to try to push it out. It's all nice and heated up, so I'm going to lay it down, see if I can't push it out. And there we go. There we go. Pop that out. Okay. So I was able to pop that out by hand. So let's flip it over and see what it looks like now. It's almost got its form back. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better than it was. We need to get this. Try to get that back in place as well, while the plastic is still soft. Push that through like this. Problem is it kind of ripped through. There we go. I'd rather bring it in, and then we can, there we go, put it like that. That corner needs to be pushed out a little bit more here. You can see here on the inside everything looks pretty good right here. Now the line should go this way. You can see this crease here where it was hit. I'm going to heat that up really good with the heat gun, just close to melting it, so I can try to smooth that out. Then we're going to put some JB Weld plastic bonder in there just to seal that and fill it, and then we'll sand it on the outside, and then I think we'll be ready to spray it. You can see the crease, the one that's supposed to be here, it pretty much rides right here. So I'm going to heat up all this really soft, this whole area. I don't know if we'll be able to get it perfect, but we should be able to at least get that flaw pretty much as down as we can. And like I said, you want to put the heat gun, you want to get it really hot. You don't want to melt the plastic to where it bubbles up or starts to tighten up, but you want to heat it up as much as you can to soften it. And you can see it's already starting to kind of push it out a little bit just by going over it like this. So I'm going to do this a little bit more, and then we'll be back to see what we can do as far as pushing it out. And then, so here we are on the outside, and I can push it down. Showing you here on an angle. I have it as flat as I'm probably going to get it. Heated it up really good as we saw, and then I pushed it down, leveled it down, let it dry and harden. I'll get a close-up so you can see it, but I think that's as good as we're going to get it right now. And there it is. The damage was really sharp right there. It's really hard to work that out without damaging the plastic. But either way, you can see here we have most of it popped out. So next thing I'm going to do is we're going to come here to where it ripped through. I'm going to flip it over. We're going to go ahead and put some JB Weld in there to kind of seal it and body fill it, and then we can sand it down. I would recommend using JB Weld plastic bonder. I thought I had it. I don't, so I'm just using the clear weld, which will do the same thing. All of them can be used on fiberglass, plastic, stuff like that. I just personally like the plastic bonder, but this is a two-part epoxy. So let's go ahead, squeeze that through. Now this one sets fast. You've only got about a 5-minute set time on it, so we got to work quick. So once you mix it up, start applying it. Just gonna really just trying to fill it and glue it. I'm going to sand this down anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And this was kind of a last minute thing to apply this, so I don't even have the proper applicator, but normally when you buy it, it comes with an applicator. Okay, that looks good. Make sure we get all the holes filled. That's the big issue. Okay, looks good. We'll let that dry, and then we'll be back to light sand it and then spray this, and that should wrap this up. So the epoxy is pretty much dry. So what we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and take a more of a heavy grit sandpaper. We're going to sand that area smooth, and then all this scarring right here where the impact was, and then just some of the damage to the paint where we popped it out. I'm going to go ahead and use 100 grit sandpaper and lightly smooth that down, and then we're going to go to a higher grit sandpaper, 220, and then you can even go up to 800 and 1000 of a wet sand if you wanted to. I'm not going to do that because I'm not going to hit it that hard, but really we're just trying to get rid of this surface damage, so that way we can then start the touch-up paint on that and wrap this up. So I'm going to start sanding this area here, and then we'll move to the higher grit sandpaper and then paint it. And all I'm really doing is just getting rid of these points and rough spots here. You could use an electric sander, but the only problem with that is if you hit it too hard, you could wind up causing more damage. I'm not trying to really go below the surface where I need to prime it. I went ahead and sanded everything down as smooth as I can get it. I mean, some of these areas here, because the way it was damaged, you don't have the jagged edges that it had. It's smooth with the filler. It's not 100%, but it's pretty decent. So we're going to go ahead and now wipe it down real good and then let it dry so we can start spraying it down, painting it. But I think it's going to be pretty decent compared to how it was looking before. So wipe this down, we'll let it dry, and then we'll be back to start spraying it. Everything has been cleaned and dried. We're going to go ahead and spray it. Now you want to make sure when you spray it, you're not doing like graffiti spray paint where you're just like this. You want to fan it out, overlap lightly, and just let it fall on there and do a couple light coats as opposed to one big heavy coat. We'll shake this real good. And you want to make sure that you match your actual paint to your vehicle. If you check the inside of your door as shown here, on the inside of the door, if you come here and we'll find right here, we have this piece here where it says C/TR. That is the C is for your color number. So the color number for this vehicle is 1G3 as shown here. So that's what you want to match. That will show you the actual code, and then you can go to Advanced Auto, AutoZone, things like that, and get like this duplicate color, the original manufacturer color, and then all you're doing is you're matching, and I'll get a close-up. Right there on the label, and that gives you the actual paint code as well as the name. That way you're getting a like-for-like match. Shake it real good. We'll do a test spray. There we go. And then here we go. We're just going to fan it. We're going to start here along the bottom and work our way up like this, overlapping strokes, like this. You want to take your time and do it right. Give a couple light coats. So now we'll come back with a second round, starting up here. And just fan it out. And then what I'm going to do is after this dries, we'll come back, give another coat, and then when it's done, I'm just going to light wet sand it around the edges to blend it real good and buff it. But we'll let this dry, and then we'll be back. We're going to go ahead and follow the same thing. And you can see right here, like I mentioned, a little bit of that showing. It's really hard to do the way that it was actually damaged and popped out. Let's see here. You want to hold the can probably about 12 to 14 inches away from the surface and just lightly overlap it like that, fanning it. Come back down. All right, and then we'll let this dry. This might be good enough, and then we'll be back to take a look at it. So the paint is almost completely dry, and you can see that crack here, a little bit noticeable right there. And you can see it's kind of still bumped out a little bit. Really hard to fix something perfectly like that because the plastic itself was kind of messed up there, but that's a pretty good seal right there, and we did use that epoxy, so that is glued together. Coming along here, you can see the part that we fixed. All painted, doesn't look that bad at all. letting it dry a little bit more, and then we'll go ahead and put it on the vehicle. I was going to go ahead and take like a 1500 or 2000 grit wet sandpaper and just really kind of blend it good and buff it and polish it. But to be honest, the spray went on very, very well, that it didn't leave that line I thought it might. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave it as is. I'll get a close up. You can see where it's blended. You can't even tell. Right around here, this line is where I had blended it, and you can take a look there. I mean, can't even tell. Turned out better than expected. And that's if you kind of fan it along as I was showing you. If you take your time, fan it along and overlap, then you can blend it pretty good. So the bumper's back on. Everything's been repainted and fixed to the best that we could. This damage, as we talked about already in this video, was actually pretty bad, the way that it ripped through, and this was creased really bad. When you're dealing with those cases, the plastic can actually damage the integrity of it, so we were kind of limited to what we could do with that. In some of those cases, if you want it to be perfect, you're better off probably going to a salvage yard or junkyard and trying to find a replacement or buying one online. But if you're trying to do it yourself, this is the best that I could get this to look like. If we didn't have it ripping through here and that, it would have turned out perfect. But I'll go ahead and get some close-ups of it. Well, this wraps up this video on how to fix a damaged bumper or bumper cover, whatever you want to call it, these plastic decorative pieces here. But I hope that this video was informative for you. I hope it helped you out with any projects you're working on. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. I'd love to hear from you. And as always, I appreciate all the support. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you next time.